G'day guys, timer is on. I'll get started on the 13th episode of the Step in Injury Prevention podcast. Hope you guys are enjoying it so far. If you are, make sure you jump across to the Step in Injury Prevention Facebook group and join the group and let me know about any topics you'd like me to cover or vote in the poll about general topics that you'd like me to cover. But really keen for specific questions to your situation. So jump across, links in the description, and let me know. Today I'll continue talking about sleep. Yesterday I did a bit of an overview about how you can look at your sleep timing, your circadian rhythm, by using particularly light and eating. I should also mention that exercise is a really strong stimulus for your circadian rhythm as well. So you might have found this if you've done exercise really late in the day just before trying to sleep. Winding down can be really tricky and it can disrupt your sleep a bit. So generally exercising in the morning, if possible, in the first part of the day, while you do have that natural cortisol, the kind of stress hormone spike, when your body's really primed, that is ideal. But of course, everyone's circumstance is different. And if you are exercising later in the day, that's fine. But using some tactics that we'll talk about when we get to the sort of stress management side of recovery will be a great way of facilitating a wind down so that the late exercise isn't such a stimulus for awakeness in the evening. So today I'm talking more about the, sleep architecture, sleep quality side of things. So I was sort of looking at circadian rhythms, that like big picture stuff you're doing throughout your day. Now there's particular, what I'm talking about today is more like how can you set up your environment and what can you do to optimize your sleep at the time. So one of the first big ones that's, most people probably had experience with this is temperature. So temperature can be there's nothing worse than being awake at night, trying to sleep, and it's just too warm. You can't get the temperature right. Your covers, you kind of kick your covers off and you just sort of toss and turn because you're too warm. So temperature is the first one to get right because it just plays such a big role in how your body gets into these stages of sleep. So ideally what happens when you go to sleep is that your temperature does drop significantly. So you start to, basically your whole system slows down, cools down. And then you have this time point kind of just before usually about 2 hours before your average wake up time, called your temperature minimum. So the actual temperature that you get to in your temperature minimum is less important, but it's more of a sort of signpost, like a time in the evening to think about, where you basically reach your temperature minimum and then your temperature starts to increase again. And as it increases, that's when you start to wake up. So just quickly on the light side of things yesterday, something I wanted to mention but ran out of time to, is basically if you start to expose yourself to light just before that, like before your temperature minimum, so after you've gone to sleep, so maybe 10 o'clock p.m. for your average sort of person. If you expose yourself to lots of light, particularly in that sort of midnight to, if your average wake up time is 6, like between midnight and 6 a.m., then that's a really strong stimulus for you to basically want to go to sleep later the next night and wake up later again. So that's a really powerful part of getting a circadian rhythm right, which I did want to talk about yesterday, but I thought I'd just quickly pop it in here. Again, if you do want to know more about that in lots of detail, do check out the Human Lab podcast, and particularly the first 4 episodes where he talks about the basics of neuroscience, and then the sleep in the first 3 episodes. So, but temperature, going back, is basically if we can keep the room cool, that makes a big difference in getting to sleep. So that can be, obviously hard depending on where you live, or it might be very easy if you're in a cold climate. But having, some amount of cooling in the room is ideal, because if you can cool your body down, that'll help you get you into sleep and into a deeper sleep. As well, there are kind of, obviously the obvious things are fans and aircon. That can get really expensive if you're doing aircon every night, depending on your energy setup. But there's some really interesting new options that are, even probably more expensive as an initial outlay. But things like a chili pad, which is a brand of has done these like mattress overlays that pump cool water, where you can set the exact temperature you want to sleep at, and you can have it set up differently for you and your if you sleep with someone else as well. So that's like the real fancy extreme end of things. One of my mates has got it, and it's been really interesting to look at his. He tracks his sleep data really closely, and there certainly has been a big effect on his deep sleep. So the idea of with temperature is basically try and cool yourself down. Having a warm shower before you go to sleep, paradoxically, it might seem like that would really warm you up. But basically, by opening your pores, it kind of stimulates a cooling experience, and then you'll get like a reflective drop in your core temperature, and that can be really helpful for going to sleep. So generally, the advice is like between 90 minutes and an hour before sleep, having a warm shower. Can be a nice way of relaxing, but then also cooling your system down and getting you into sleep. So the other thing is, again, with which just like yesterday, we're talking a lot about light, but light in the room makes a really big difference. So basically trying to get your environment as dark as possible, so you can really, because again, you've got these light sensing cells in your eyes that are really sensitive and can basically keep you in lighter states of sleep if you do have that exposure to light. Again, like I said yesterday, the eating close to going to sleep is going to be generally keeping you more awake. So the more time you can have between your last meal and going to sleep is going to be good. But obviously, you don't want to wake up hungry, like in the middle of the night. So finding that balance is really important. Trying to get like sound is an interesting one, because some people find that like a white noise background can really help them get to sleep. I kind of prefer absolute silence, so using earplugs, especially if you have noisy neighbours, unfortunately like we do, who live above us and are nocturnal and stomp around late at night. That's been a really key one, is getting some good soundproofing. Where you like currently using silicon earbuds that kind of really mold to your ear. So found that to be really quite useful. In terms of like sleep supplements, there's a lot of people sort of, I guess, are aware of things like melatonin, are generally the ones that people are most aware of. With melatonin, like again, I'm not a nutritionist or a doctor, so please do your own research or talk to your health professional about this. But with the Human Lab, he really suggests that if you start to take exogenous, so melatonin that your body is not producing, so your body does produce this yourself, and again, light is a big signal for producing it, then that can really start to mess with your body's own production of it. So if you can be optimizing your environment rather than taking in external stuff, then your body will be better at producing it, and that's generally always going to be better for the long term. Now with magnesium, there's lots of different types of magnesium, which I think I didn't realize for quite a few years, but there is quite a few different types of magnesium, and there is suggestion that it can be helpful. I've played around with it a bit, haven't noticed like massive changes, and so I think it's always really tempting to jump to like supplements and to jump to I guess that silver bullet like a pill that we can take to fix all our ills. But generally, if you're eating a fairly like healthy, balanced diet with like high nutrient density, like you generally will have a lot of what you need. You can take external magnesium, and it's worth really checking to make sure, because just basically look up which ones are really relevant for sleep. I think it's magnesium 3 and 8 is generally the recommended one, but again, look into that or work with a health professional. And I would really recommend, like, although you can take that if you're taking a couple of magnesium tablets, but you're not dealing with light, temperature, the food stimulus, all the circadian rhythm things, basically you're unlikely to get good sleep. But I know it's tempting just to try and look for that one thing that will quickly fix everything without changing behavior. So it's a bit of it's a really important one to think about those behavioral things, and basically just setting up your environment for success. So we just bought some really good blackout curtains. It's a one-off thing that's going to then really pay dividends for a long time by having proper blackout curtains. So try and set up your environment and set up your habits and behavior for success. And the last thing is really trying to wind down and have like a wind down routine. So you, as I said yesterday, lights are not ideal. So if you're, let me just turn off that alarm. That's 10 minutes. So hopefully you've had a great run. Things like, staying up late, and if you have your phone right in your right in your face and you're getting that big dose of light, but also just your brain sort of going on overdrive. And especially if you're looking at work related stuff, or you guys might be checking out crypto markets just before you go to sleep. All of those things that are really getting your brain ticking along can make it quite hard to get into deep, prolonged, good quality sleep. I know that since running my own businesses, just stress has been one of the biggest factors that's really seemed to have started to mess with my sleep. So I've started to try and get in the habit of reading a fiction book for a while to get to sleep, to really let my brain switch off from all the regular stresses and all the different things that I'm thinking about. So having that wind down routine, which might start with that shower to start cooling your body temperature before sleep. It might be potentially, if you're if you like it and you're into doing some mindfulness sort of stuff, doing and then reading something that's not going to stress you out and not going to stimulate your brain, going into overdrive just before you sleep is a great way of setting yourself up to get into a peaceful, deep sleep. So I know this last two episodes haven't been directly about running, but again, we've got to remember that recovery is such a key part of a sustainable exercise practice, particularly if you want to be increasing on your current level. And for, I guess, most of us who are, doing this, then the daily running is probably more running than you've done in the past. Like I was doing that for my marathon training leading up to here, but usually actually more 6 days a week, which still felt like a lot. And particularly if you do want to be increasing your time that you're able to do. So if you're starting out with 10 minutes and then you want to work up to 20 minutes and you want to work up to 45 minutes, that's a lot. And again, recovering, like if you're not recovering, then you are going to fall apart and it's just not going to be physically sustainable. So I know this might not seem directly related to running, but it is so important. So I hope you guys got something out of today. Again, I do really recommend those Human Lab podcasts, particularly the first 4 episodes. So interesting, but they are very long. So I've done my best to try and condense that. Like it's probably about 5.5 hours of podcast there, and I've tried to get it into about 20-25 minutes over the last 2 episodes. So hopefully that's helpful. Let me know, and I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Again, if you do have any topics you'd like me to cover, jump across to the Step in Injury Prevention Facebook group and let me know, or ask me a direct question or vote in the poll. And otherwise, I'll see you guys tomorrow.